there had been something that's been on my mind, and it's been on my mind not just recently. I've thought about this over the last few years in where we look at brands in sports, NFL, Major League Baseball, and in this case, the NBA. Because I was just astonished at how the Golden State Warriors brand had evolved over what is now the past decade, where there was a point where the only thing that I remember people talking about the Warriors were Run TMC and maybe a few Baron Davis highlights.
The We Believe team. Yeah.
Yes. That was it.
Yep.
Like it was buried in the Bay Area is how I felt about the Golden State Warriors for a majority of my life, up until Steph Curry becomes Steph Curry, Steve Kerr takes over, and they're off and running. Because even when Mark Jackson was there early, Steph wasn't Steph at that point.
Right.
It was really when Steve Kerr took over and Clay became who Clay is, and Draymond is Draymond, and now the Warriors are this brand that I had actually felt had risen as high as number 2 in the NBA.
Okay. Uh-huh.
That I felt that their brand was so popular that they were a topic of conversation no matter what, that they were only behind the Los Angeles Lakers. And that then told me, well, then if the Warriors moved up to 2, who fell? Well, the Bulls had their run, and I think in the 90s, honestly, they were probably more popular than the Lakers. Maybe the Lakers ended up dropping a spot.
Right.
But you also have a team like the New York Knicks that were popular in the city, and we saw how crazy things can get when the Knicks are good. When the Knicks were bad, the Knicks were bad for a long time, and that cachet didn't end up carrying over. And then you had the Boston Celtics. Some would argue the most storied franchise in the NBA. And honestly, them and the Lakers playing off each other was the starting point for how I got to thinking about this, because I just thought it was so amazing that I could hate both teams in the NBA Finals when I was growing up in the 80s.
Yeah.
But it was true, because I hated the Celtics, and I sure as heck didn't like the Lakers. So I really didn't care who won in the NBA Finals, because I didn't like either team. And they, ended up playing in 84, ended up playing in 85, they ended up playing in 87, and it was just, all right, enough. And this is 40 years ago. But so now here we are about to enter, fast forward to present day, June 2nd, 2024. And we go into an NBA Finals where that storied franchise of the Boston Celtics is playing second fiddle to their opponent that isn't the Los Angeles Lakers, that isn't the Golden State Warriors. It's the Dallas Mavericks. Sorry, the Dallas Mavericks are the draw in this series. People are not tuning in to go and watch Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics. They may be in Massachusetts, they may be in Maine and Vermont and New Hampshire, but the rest of the country is not enamored with the Boston Celtics. And in fact, I would argue that outside of the 2008 championship with Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, that for about the past 35 to 40 years, no one has been enamored with the Boston Celtics. That they have fallen into not a Johnny-come-lately, but their brand is not the brand of the NBA. The true brand of the NBA, and I'm sorry, Celtics fans, the Lakers are the brand of the NBA. It is not the Boston Celtics. And if you need any evidence, just look at who the main draw is of this NBA Finals, because it's not the team in Boston.
Man, this is a layered conversation, and everything you said is pretty accurate. I think when you talk about just this finals as a whole, as this brand, you're talking about Dallas being the story going into this final. I think the reason they are the story in this final is because of the tie with the Celtics, though. So I think there is a combination of both of those being true. I think Dallas is the story with what they can do, the dynamic duo going in, Luka's first chance. But I think the biggest story with this game is, Kyrie going back to Boston, which the Boston tie is still there. And then you have the young guns and, Tatum and Brown trying to kind of elevate the brand back into that light that we've talked about before, which you just very eloquently just stated. I think the tie is still there with Boston. I think with the brand of the NBA and how that goes, I just think we don't live in the revisionary lane when it comes to, you talk about the Celtics, talk about the Lakers of, the 80s and how, beautiful that story was, and how Magic and Larry and those guys competed at an all-time level, where that story, even you take that story back even a step further, just them two as being able to evolve the brand of the NBA as a whole, those two coming out of college playing each other in the finals, so having that history there, and you take that to the next level where those two are competing with two of the most storied franchises, and obviously it raises it up to a different level. But when you talk about like current brands, and I do think you do have to say Golden State is up there now and has surpassed Boston in that conversation. But now Boston being back there and having a chance to win it again, it just kind of makes this story come in this roundabout way where it can be Boston again at the top of that chain.
So you think that there are ties, and there are ties. I just don't think that the country cares necessarily that Kyrie's going back to Boston. I think that Boston cares that Kyrie's going back to Boston. And I think that in a Porzingis angle, I don't think carries the weight.
Yeah.
The Mavericks are the Mavericks because of Luka, and that is the draw in the NBA Finals. And having a star player, and it's not meant to be an indictment, but it does tell you that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are not up to that level.
No, for sure.
And especially when you compare it to Celtic greats. And I don't even want to use the success of the Celtics in this scenario to pinpoint it. When you take a bad Lakers team, the Lakers were still the story. Sure. The Lakers have been the story. You can rattle off crappy players of the Lakers, but they were still a story because you're like, how is this team going to get back? When are they going to bring in the stars? When's the glitz and glam, going to be back? And yeah, it may be cosmetic, but that's what branding is, and that's what the Lakers are. There were some bad Celtics teams that made no waves whatsoever. At least when you reminisce in Lakers past, you can laugh and look back and say, the Lonzo Ball days, Smush Parker, those names, the Nick Van Exel years, like those, and no disrespect to Nick Van Exel, who had a solid NBA career.
Nick was great, yeah.
But it pales in comparison to obviously the Shaq Kobe Lakers or the Magic Johnson Lakers.
Right.
But those teams are still Laker teams that we're talking about. When the Lakers weren't good, they still had Kobe Bryant. They were still a story, in his later years playing. Boston, like, I remember going to a Celtics-Bucks game in, I don't know, maybe 94, 95. And, like, Dino Raja was the best player that I'm watching on the Boston Celtics. So you want to talk about fall off, and then you look at what they've got in terms of championships. Again, one since 1986. One. That's it. In 2008.
Yeah.
And so while I may not believe that the bubble championship is that legit, there was 2000, 2001, 2002, there was 2009, then there was 2010. So, so with all of that, it just, the Warriors may fall off when Steve Kerr and Steph Curry end up moving on. They're not going to be the same, maybe like the Bulls. We'll have to see.
Right.
But the Lakers are always a part of that conversation. And I just don't think that the Celtics are. And for a league that I think for so long was held up by the Lakers and the Celtics, and when you look at their history, 17 championships, the big rivalries, I just feel that the Lakers have carried more weight in being that brand of the NBA, that it's not a two-horse race, it's a one-horse race with the Lakers leading it.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying with the brand part of it, and it's funny because obviously Boston is one more still in this time right now, in this time frame, obviously because of being to the conference finals and being in the mix. I think there's
won games, not championships, 100%. But won games.
Yes, exactly. So we're talking about the brand. So I think the conversation is, what does the brand mean? Is the brand just about the talk, aesthetic, like you just said, or is it winning and being in the conversation every year for being the best team? Because that's two different conversations, obviously, and I think that's where I'm getting a little, having a little subjectivity as far as the Lakers being the brand. Because if it wasn't for LeBron right now, they wouldn't even be in discussion either. And so I think it falls on being the brand of LeBron and not the brand of the Lakers. And so I would differentiate the two between that.
I did extend an offer to one Steve Hartman, who he and Monty Bolaños yesterday had carried on this discussion. Steve has declined. Monty will join us in just a little bit. Bo Benson may be biased as a Lakers fan. Where do you stand on this topic of conversation that we've had over the last 24 hours here on Fox?
The Los Angeles Lakers, as bad as they may be and have been, they at least have the decency to win a title every decade. And like I have their record here. They won the finals in 2010 over the Boston Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
Then their low point was a 17-65 season in 2015-2016. And then in 2020, they won the NBA Finals. So like in all that gulf, they still won another finals before the Boston Celtics did. And I think before the Celtics even got back to the finals. So
is there anything, Bo, with the sustaining of excellence? Does that matter to you at all?
I mean, it'd be ideal,
right.
but like winning is the name of the game. But what ticks me off a little bit is if the Lakers had the regular season success that the Celtics have had over the last few years, but didn't win a championship the way the Celtics haven't, you'd never hear the end of it because the expectation for the Lakers are different. And I don't want to hear about the Celtics being in the same tier as the Lakers if they're not getting the same expectations and the same criticism for not finishing what they're supposed to do.
They do get a lot of that criticism, though. I think this isn't a Cowboy situation. I feel like, at least for the NBA, there is we're allowed to have a duopoly of two teams that are the top ones here. This isn't, are the Lakers bigger than the Celtics, or the Celtics bigger than the Lakers? They're like, when I had
no, but
the video game,
the Lakers
early,
are bigger than the Celtics.
The video game I had as a kid was the NBA Finals.
There is no
Lakers.
duopoly.
It was Lakers versus Celtics. It's always been Lakers versus Celtics.
I would like to see
two.
I would like to see criticism of the Boston Celtics for not winning the title because I don't see it.
No. There is criticism of them not winning the title. I mean, that's what these two are being.
I disagree. I don't see any. Not to the degree that the Los Angeles Lakers get criticism for anything.
They're like not even giving Jaylen Brown third team all NBA because of them not being able to win.
Danny Ainge,
right?
And now Brad Stevens, and they've done great jobs in keeping their teams competitive and putting teams together. But they have lived, specifically Danny Ainge has just lived off of the 2008 championship almost as much as Doc Rivers has.
Yeah.
In terms of for what they've done and the moves they've made. And by the way, they've made great moves to the point where we're like, why is anybody doing a deal with Danny Ainge? Like that was a thing in the NBA, but you weren't getting rings and titles with that.
Can you guys imagine what the radio and TV would look like and sound like if the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James and Anthony Davis had lost to the 8th seed ever, like the Boston Celtics have recently? Like losing to that Miami Heat team is, geez.
Sure, and I get that. And there would, Celtics fans would counter and be like, "Well, we are, we're not bad enough to be a 7 seed, or we're the 1 seed. That's why we can lose to an 8 seed." But it's even at the lowest of lows. I still think that the Lakers are a conversation. When the Celtics are at the lowest of lows, they disappear. Now, Monty Bolaños, who is side by side again, Steve Hartman has declined an invitation to join us. Because apparently it took over part of your show yesterday. You sided with me on this? Is this what happened, Monty?
I'm confused on the first part, but yes, I can confirm the second part that I sided with you.
Steve Hartman has accepted.
He walks in the building. Here he
He's
comes.
in the studio right now.
Do you know that mic? I don't know if that mic has ever been turned on.
The mic it's hot.
Oh,
it's
I'm
hot.
turning it on
it's
right
hot.
now.
All right.
At the very least, you can hear me on your mics.
Yes.
We knew we'd get him in. But Monty has the floor. Do you think that the Lakers are the biggest brand and that the Celtics have fallen off? That's my argument.
1,000%. I didn't even think it was anything really to discuss until that man brought it
and
up.
She's new school.
And I was like, and I think also Steve kind of like was taking it a little differently than the way you were trying to explain it. And I was like, I think Dan is saying, like, in big picture, it's the brand. Like, the Lakers name is still thriving. It's still great despite the not great success they've had in recent years.
Steve Hartman, you will be able to. Steve's got something up his sleeve.
He's doing something.
That is exactly.
Always.
He's looking for headphones.
That is exactly.
He didn't hear his word Monty said.
That is exactly the point that was made. Was the point that Monty was making, Steve, that you didn't hear because we were in a different studio, was that I was talking about the brand. Maybe not the greatness, but the actual brand, just like the Dallas Cowboys are the top brand in the National Football League, that the Los Angeles Lakers are the top brand in the NBA.
All right, they're a brand because of LeBron James. It's like people saying, gee, I was at that Fever game like in LA recently. There are a lot of Fever fans here. There are no Fever fans. There are Caitlin Clark fans. There are no Fever fans. The Lakers without LeBron,
That's what I said, yeah.
have no relevance. It's a franchise over the last 11 years that has missed the playoffs completely 7 times, 2 first-round exits, a blowout 4-game sweep in a Western Conference Finals, and an NBA championship in a bubble that no one saw. Look at the ratings. It was right in the middle of the NFL season. So we say this about the Dallas Cowboys, a team that hasn't been to a conference championship game since the mid-'90s,
right?
And still they're in the conversation. They're in the conversation because of Jerry Jones. The Lakers were always in the conversation because of Jerry Buss. The Celtics were in the conversation because of Red Auerbach. The Yankees in the conversation because of George Steinbrenner. And so when those icons are gone, you're no longer relevant. The reason we still talk about the Cowboys is Jerry Jones is the reason that we talk about it. Dallas
The Yankees
Cowboys
are no longer relevant?
How are they relevant?
Have you heard of Arson Judge?
They haven't won a World Series since '09. No, they don't have the same buzz. There's more buzz.
There's no buzz about baseball. Like there's no buzz about baseball.
I don't know. There's buzz about Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, there's buzz about Judge this year too, though. In that case,
the bottom line is that for the Lakers in the post Jerry Buss era has been a catastrophe by any measurement, especially if you're a Lakers fan. They had only missed the playoffs 5 times ever until he died. And now they missed the playoffs 7 times
since. Did you plan on coming in here and proving my point? Like, that's why we're still talking about the Lakers. Like, we still talk about them. Nobody knows who Wick Grousbeck is outside of New England. Nobody has any idea.
Look,
they don't.
I am a lifelong Laker fan and Celtic hater. This goes back to the 1969 NBA Finals when I was in 5th grade, and I couldn't believe the Lakers lost that series with Wilt Chamberlain in Bill Russell's final season. But the idea that the Lakers are more significant than the Boston Celtics in the moment.
That's right. I'm with you. I'm with you on that one, though, Steve. So,
How are they more significant? The only argument is, well, they have LeBron James, and we got Rich Paul orchestrating the obvious signing of Bronny James. This is garbage.
They know where their bread's buttered. It's on star power, just like Hollywood is.
I
so
like relevance.
That.
Like the Chiefs are relevant because they're winning championships. That's the kind of relevance I'm looking for.
I Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's a star player as well. So.
Right. And you think anyone would care what Harrison Butker is saying if he wasn't the Chiefs kicker? If he had been the Jacksonville kicker, would that have gotten any mileage at all? Of course not. So when you win championships, when you become a dominant force, you are in the conversation. Right now, the number one brand in the NBA is the Golden State Warriors. I had to look this up yesterday. And yes, the Lakers were number 2. But in my mind, they have no significance unless they're actual true contenders to win a championship.
On that Bleacher Report article, how many slideshows did you have to get to when you finally got to the Celtics? Because it was like click next.
Again, I'm not arguing that the Celtics have no significance. I'm arguing with your point, Dan, that somehow the Lakers still control the narrative in the NBA.
Yeah.
And in
my
opinion,
because
they
we're still
don't.
talking about who they're going to hire as a head
you do.
coach.
I'm not talking about him until. And then what it was
you talked about him all day yesterday. And then you turned down my invite 3 times, and then are like, all right,
why
I'll show up
haven't
at
they
the
hired
party.
JJ Redick? Is that because he's committed to call the NBA Finals? Is that what they're holding off on so he can do the rest of the finals?
I don't think so. Yeah. Good talk. Steve is Warnberger in today? Is he going to be joining in as well? Or is
Richie's always
He's
ready.
keeping his distance.
Yes. All right.
Steve came in hot. You asked for it too, so Steve,
I did. I thought it was only fair. I saw a tweet about it yesterday, and I had no idea that it became such a
Dan,
such a
when I listen
conversation.
to you, we have a long history, and I think you crossed the line this time.
There he is, Steve Hartman, host of the Steve Hartman and Monty Bolaño show Saturdays on Fox Sports Radio, and host of the Steve Hartman and Rich Ornberger show Sundays here on Fox.
Dan, you got what you asked for with that one, didn't
you? I did. Thank you very much, everyone participating.